Well, good evening. So I left the house. And I made $150. And that's with a $25 kind of incentive that Uber gives. There we go. Starting to go the wrong direction. And I started the day with, since I'm making up some time for some folks to get here if they want to. I started the day with for several reasons. I mean, Shang-Chi's I got on my first turn right. Oh, look at that. A lot cheaper gas right there. I should have waited till Love's. Silly me. To save some money. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I was asked about by a student. I don't know if they're going for their graduate degree or what degree of student they are, the person is. And so they got in contact with me, and through my Facebook page, saying they had listened to some live streams. I wanted to, I guess, in a sense, the person is attracted to, I guess, the information, or the examination of the information. It has a bunch of questions, so I'm going to talk about some of them, because it's a lot to write about if you really want to try to, I don't know how to put things concisely and where to start with someone, but her questions, I think she probably is a female vehicle, but who knows today. I met someone that looked like a female vehicle to me, but was growing a beard. So I don't want to, but I mean, it does affect us. Because gender consciousness was one of the questions related to that. But I'm going to try to, because the person was asking about the 60s, because of reading some of what I've written on my blog, an index to my book, I guess, which, I did provide a table of contents that's got a lot of things in it. And I suggest to the individual, if the person intends to listen to my streams, that I can provide some of the answers, but also if you search on like California on my blog, and especially in my book, I delved into California quite a bit as the dawning of the new age. And like there's an overview with things that is what T&Do provided. And their overview contained a lot of details, but not a huge amount. A lot by, I don't know, you can't really measure it. Because they would say one thing and like a human individual metamorphosis. That's what they were all about. That is scientific metamorphosis of even the physical human vehicle, body, has the capacity to metamorphosize into something else. And they gave us the example of the caterpillar and the butterfly. As I know I'm going off on it, but to remove ourselves from our spirituality, I think, because the imagination fills in the gaps with spirituality. That's what it's called. It's the imagination of all things that are invisible, that we think and feel and even aspire to in different ways, having more of. So much more that it takes you beyond the human kingdom. Is religion. Taking doses of reality that the physical evolutionary kingdom of mind and the other kingdom level basis for the evolutionary level above human. In other words, from the human kingdom, yes, all things are part of evolutionary kingdom, scientifically. When we think about it spiritually, mentally, as an idea, without that grounding into that we can touch and see and observe, like observing the way that there are all these progressions of development of physical bodies, and how they all, I don't know, maybe not all, but I think all have the capacity to learn and change and adjust. Even that's happening. So that changing is an evolutionary process if it's going ahead, if it's moving towards the creators, the beings, not the creators as a spiritual term, but the actual scientists that are doing the work in their field, whether it's social science or matter or or the material world, the biological world, the denser physical world. All things, so if you have somebody that's actually talking about that as a reality, beings that aren't limited to the earth, they can go to many places. And there's less actual observation of individuals when they've been allowed to be in the next levels of studentship. Even with next level vehicles grown for them for elementary tasks that we see as these space alien vehicles, some of them. Or we see the distortion of those vehicles. Oh no. I should have just got off. Well, I do it this way a lot of times, so I'll just go back that way. Why do I get conscious of my directions right after I need to sometimes? Because it's like the radar saying, because that's what loves is. But this works. Pay attention more now. It's not just driving straight. Got a turn coming up. I don't want to miss any turns. I get back late enough. Okay, so back to the California question of I wrote about the Bear Rebellion in there. So I was trying to line things up with the Seven Trumpets sounding. I was trying to bring evidence to that process, and I think I did, actually. I think I got some okay things in there that, I wasn't trying to manufacture anything, but I was taking everything that happened as a clue to which of the Seven Trumpets, because it did seem to follow a timeline of talked about many times, like the okay, looks like we made this turn. Where does that come out? It's right past this CCG thing. Discover because I believe that it makes sense to me. It's not belief. Belief is a shallow term. I mean, it's got its value. I mean, it doesn't have to be a shallow term, but you can read a book and you can believe that you could take apart an engine of a car and put it back together or something. Okay. Or you can do it and then find out what it really takes to do it and not make mistakes. Now, a car might not be the best example, but that's just, and it's the same thing with Next Level Mind. If you build it, they will come. You know that movie? If you build it, they will come. I forgot the name of that. That was a fun movie with Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon. Oh, no. Was it Susan Sarandon? No, it wasn't. It was the gal that was from Thelma and Louise, right? I forgot her name now. But silly me. But. I guess it's time to play harmonica. were working from a distance, and they had a plan. And so they had a briefing on board their spacecraft, one of them. Don't know where it was exactly, but it appeared to be like, let's say, equivalent to like Pluto. Because TNO weren't ready to commit to it being in Pluto in the movie script that they wrote. So during that meeting, an older member came to talk to others about the Earth. What was next? Running by the older member's older member, their plans, their ideas, their thoughts, their observations, their perspective in this huge life experiment, a benefic life experiment. It's benefic because all things can grow. Everything can grow from the next level's presence. I think it's safe to say. I don't know, I mean, that sounds kind of supernatural, right? But what if it's electromagnetic? What if it's radio frequency electromagnetics? And other spectrums that we don't know how to describe. That is the life force itself. The spark of life that everything seems to have in it. Everything, right down to the elements. And the elements got a lot of sparks of life. I mean, in terms of their power. You got elements that can, just by existing, draw other elements to them. Metals from a magnet. You've got elements that can put out invisible information. An invisible force. Do you know how big of an example that is? I think, I mean, the way I look at it, I mean, I know it's stating the obvious, but even the obvious can be astounding. I can't imagine. Well, see, even if I say I can't imagine that there wasn't the most highly intelligent, compassionate, thoughtful, understanding, slow to judge, wanting to give so many opportunities to grow direction without it being something that they're told is a must until the next generation when they come back. Like Jesus said that, Moses said it was a must, right? To not kill each other. He said he got that from God. Okay? Okay, so when it came time for Jesus, he said, Yeah, not only it's a must for that, but that if you're angry with your fellow human being without a reason, that was also something to outgrow. A higher standard. Angry only if there was a reason. And if it's among people that are in the same mindset, regardless of whether they're organized in any ways, shape, or form, it doesn't matter, because it can be people in all the different departments of life in the human kingdom that have a certain amount of tapping into next level mind. Because there has been an evolution of mind. And so I don't think there's going to be a repeat of the same exact scenarios, but there is a repeat of, the same exact scenarios when it comes down to describing the particulars of what this dictator did, or that dictator did, or that genocide was about. I'm not deflating that. I'm not deflating the evil of that by talking about it like that. But it is more of a next level view. And it makes sense that it is. You know how many detection devices they have that can, but that they don't read our minds unless they have reason to. Be many members, but not as many as in the human kingdom. Probably wouldn't be that many, but paying attention to those that have the power, be ahead of them if they get an instruction to do that. Like, it's supposed to be a fact that the Russian submarine stayed somewhere, I think, because they wanted to have a base in Cuba. And to protect their interests in that area. And so now Putin sent some submarines that I don't know if they have nuclear missiles on them, but out, and I don't know if the next level is going to hold that back. I think it's a show more than it's something that they really want to do, because they know they would get retaliated against. Why somebody would be trying to stop them from having that capacity. So there could be some exchanges. But I think that that's not going to probably happen until the next level determines that they're not going to hold it back anymore. And that doesn't mean it's still going to happen. If the people have become a little more civilized, even though they don't show it, by what's been taking place in Gaza is the number one way that shows that they're and the way that there is evidence that that was something that they wanted to happen, to get away from the status quo. They even said it right in the beginning. It was their 9/11, because that's what happened with 9/11 here. They needed something to happen. So they talked about it. It was in documents that the New American, for a New American Century, the Committee for a New American Century document was called Rebuilding America's Defenses. That was signed by, I think it was the leader of the writing, I think was Wolfowitz. So, miles, gotta get rid of this coffee. Get to the next level, right? To where, but if you did have a problem with your fellow human, you have somebody else that's of your tribe, of your organization, whatever it is, in the entity. To hear what you're angry about, that you think is a just cause for anger, and then if that person agrees with you, then you would bring it to the. If he doesn't agree with you, or the person still insists on being able to do what they want to do, then you bring it to the congregation. So that'd be like, and then if the person I don't think it would be something that they didn't do. But something that they did. Unless they didn't do it for a manipulated reason or something. That might be an exception to that. And, with all the people in government, but at the same time, I'm not their judge. Except for what they do, and it's part of the human kingdom that you grow up knowing that the world is full of both good and evil. And, intending to trust or not different parts of or different skills or talents. Different belief systems. It's like, so what has that become in the human kingdom? Gosh, the more we see it, the harder it is to see it. you know, if there's a lot of people that are breaking the law, that's like if you're angry with your fellow human, if they're doing something that's making other people angry, then they need to be accountable for it, right? And that's gotten all out of hand now. And I was listening to Candace Owen talking about how one of the biggest weapons that are used against anybody that's not in goose step, and that's meant to be goose step of anybody that's of that, you know, if they can't all get rich from it and do the things they want with the money that they get from the public and from the whole system. You know, they have that. And the Federal Reserve is basically all the banks. And they control the interest rates. And they're not even elected. So they're, you know, but see, the bankers, well, we don't need to, you know, the Club of Rome, you know, is, they exist, you know. I mean, there was a book written that, while I was in the classroom, it was called something 300, I think. So somebody went and looked at all the boardrooms of the corporations. I don't know if he did that, you know, around the world. But he came up with 300 names. The Committee of 300, I think was the name of the book. The Committee of 300. And, gosh, I felt like I said that the second time, and like Donald Trump does. Yuck. I mean, you know, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. If I say anything positive about Donald Trump, then I'm in his camp by a lot of people's opinion. That's how narrow-minded people have become. That's how narrow-minded, I'm going to say it again, regardless of whether Trump doesn't, you know, repeat himself, maybe sometimes it's good, so that you can't question what he's saying. I mean, I'm not saying he says the truth. I think sometimes he does. Instead of being like the polished politician that doesn't say what's on his mind until he determines whether it's, you know, got the approval of their backers. They all have backers. They're not operating in a vacuum. All the politicians. For them to be able to continue to do what they do, they can't rock the boat too much. Or guess what happens? You know, so it's almost like they say, you know, we'll have your back if you give us a way to, you know, to get to you. And we'll have your back and we'll protect you. But you got to play ball with and not talk about things that we don't want you to talk about. And that was the UFO subject for a long time. And now it's trendy to talk about it because of Aviel Loeb and I'm not sure how to say the man's name, who's the Japanese astrophysicist, Stephen Burns, and Stephen Burns is like an outlier. He's not. I don't know if he's been included in the gang, but I don't think so. Because he brings astrology into it too, and I think that's wonderful about him. Because astrology is like the study of frequencies and how they affect us. And I was talking about that before, you know. What isn't. So when you hear somebody saying that isn't true, that isn't real, that never happened, how can you have an absolute about something that you have no evidence didn't happen? It shows he's developed a strong habit, you know, because of their genes or whatever the reasons are. And being self-righteous. That's another form of it, like through religion. See, religions give you a false sense of righteousness. Because, right, you know, Tiandao, when they you don't want to be right, you want to do right. Dudley Do Right and the Mounties. I watched that cartoon when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, whatever that was. Oh, my turn. I got alerted to it before I got there. If anybody from the next level will help me with that, I appreciate it. Or it could be a spirit entity that's hanging around me. You know, one of the ones that became part of this vehicle on some regular basis. Accept the timeshares. We accept the thoughts that are attractive to us, right from being a kid. Spirits work with. Or attracted to. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's a beautiful system. Oh, that's right. That's my turn. Beautiful system. And so yeah, I'm not able to well, I can actually. I do. I have looked at the chats. Oh, Kathy, I don't want you to wake up and do this. Rainrod says hi. Hi, Rainrod. I've got to turn in 0.8 miles. Hope you have a great day today. It says best clown frown. Okay. Trying to spread positivity through the live channel. Bye. Great. Oh my sorry Kathy had to get involved with deleting people that were saying inappropriate things. It says, just had the thought everything is frequencies and then stumbled on the stream. That is, that's, I believe in that kind of thing. I don't think those are necessarily coincidences. But I think it's next level doing it. The reason I say that is because there's no reason for human influences to want anybody to tune into this stream. They're not going to get anything human out of it. I mean, maybe a little bit because I'm a human vehicle that had exposure to amazing minds directly. And and they left behind the evidence of their minds. What is the most harmless thing you've ever done that still makes you feel like a criminal? Huh. That's an interesting idea, I guess. The harmless thing you've ever done that still makes you feel like a criminal. Is that like feeling guilty about something? Because you could say that, feeling guilty is kind of harmless, isn't it? I mean, to other people. And yet we can feel like we're bad for being guilty, for feeling guilty. I'm at the gate. Close enough. So I don't know. It's harmless that I feel like a criminal about. I don't know what that. Oh well, sure. I could say that. From when I started smoking weed and stuff and doing acid and everything, I mean the weed was. I mean, you can argue about whether it's harmless or not, depending if you, become like, oh, use too much or too often or whatever, that's all regulatable, of course, by the individual. But and yet, if you do it in public, you're thought of as a criminal by some people. Used to be anyway. Probably still is for some people, because some habits don't go away very easily. If we establish a real habit of thought, then it doesn't go away that easy. It isn't engaging that in their minds. Like, how do you overcome having a phobia? Well, you got to block it. And you got to block it over and over again, every time it comes into your mind. Otherwise, you could become, so phobic about almost anything. Well, I'm home, folks, so if there's a lot more in the chat, but search my my blog for California and you'll see a lot of things. And my book in particular, the index of the book.